Greetings, YouTube. Last weekend, my wife and I caught a matinee showing of the film ParaNorman. Now, I'm going to be talking about details in the film, so if you do not want the film spoiled, it's only a week after opening when I'm posting this video, you may want to stop watching now. If it's in the future, however, feel free to continue. Now, I went into ParaNorman in an interesting way. I had watched the trailer, I think, twice, and that's the only contact I had with the film. That's all. I can only remember one film where I actually had less contact with something, and that would have been Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy. I walked into Chasing Amy cold. I did not know anything about this movie. My first wife and I were just hanging out with some friends, and they said, we're going to a movie, you want to come with us? And we're like, yeah, what the heck, we'll go. And we went to the movie, and we knew nothing about it. I didn't know it was a Kevin Smith film until I walked in the door. So that was a unique experience. So while ParaNorman wasn't quite that, it was still eye-opening for me because I really didn't know the details of the movie. Now, my wife has a penchant for Halloween-themed kids' movies. The Nightmare Before Christmas and Monster House are two of my wife's favorite films. And we're probably going to be going to see Frankenweenie when it opens. She loves the animated style, and she loves that kind of PG-13 aimed thrills that are involved in this kind of film. The artistic style appeals to her. She likes the comic book Lenore for that reason. So there's a lot of things about this film that I knew my wife would love, so that's why we went to see it. She was very excited when she heard that it opened. We don't normally go to see films in first-run theaters any longer because it's just so darn expensive, but she really wanted to see this one on opening weekend, so we did. So, ParaNorman is the story of Norman, a boy who would really love to be normal. He would be thrilled if he were just an ordinary guy, but he isn't. And the reason that he's not an ordinary kid is he sees dead people. And he does more than see them. He talks to them. And they talk back. They don't just give him cryptic messages. They say hello. They share their views on the world. They are a part and parcel of his reality to a degree that you and I are to each other. We are virtual people right now. I am an image on a digital screen. For you, I could be animated. Well, I'm not, but that interaction that exists between us right now is just as complex as the interaction between Norman and the ghosts that he sees on a regular basis. People from complete strangers, to animals killed in the street by cars, to his grandmother. Now, this puts Norman outside the norm, if you will, and many people in his community, in his age bracket, think that he is a freak. Life for Norman is very hard at school, and life at home isn't much better because his parents would really like him to be normal as well. There's a lot more depth to this film than I was aware of. I knew it was a horror-themed kids film, and that's all I knew. I wasn't aware that they were going to be talking about expectations and what we want from our children and how our parents can and cannot support us. There were a lot of elements going on in this on a number of different levels, and I was very impressed by that fact. The writing was very good. The graphics were wonderful. I watched the How to Train My Dragon recently with the commentary track, and the people doing the film talked about the lighting constantly, and I have to be honest, I never noticed the lighting in How to Train Your Dragon at all. The lighting in ParaNorman, however, was excellent. There's a number of scenes where there's backlighting on Norman, and you can actually see the blood vessels and vein structures in his ears. It was masterfully done. In the opening sequence, there's a plastic bag up against a fence or something like that. I can't remember the exact scene, but just this plastic bag moving in the wind was beautiful. It looked like a real plastic bag. I was very impressed from someone that appreciates graphics. The cast and characters in the film were entertaining. I didn't recognize any voices in the film except for one, and that was played by John Goodman. He was the crazy uncle, and he was great. I'm like, is that John Goodman? And he was, and he was wonderful. You have Norman's parents, his crazy uncles in the film, his older sister who wants nothing to do with anything except her particular view of the world. He makes a friend in the school, fat kid, and you have his older brother makes a showing in the film, as does their geeky female friend, who's Selma, I believe her name is. And essentially, this group of people, and a bully that named Alvin, that all come together, that become the Scooby-Doo gang. They're even in a van. It made me smile. It was quite pleasant. And they go on this adventure about the fact that they live in this town, that the entire history of the town is based on a witch trial. It's very much like Salem, Massachusetts. And they've built their entire tourist industry around this witch trial, and you learn the truth of the witch trial, and you learn the truth of the myth behind it, and the curse that was placed upon their community by the actual witch that was involved in that trial, and the tribulations involved in here. It deals with regrets. It deals with people doing things when they're scared and making bad decisions, really bad decisions. It deals with the dead coming back to life for real, and that they're not the most dangerous thing in the world. It deals with friendship and family, and even though there were times when things were a smidge heavy-handed, perhaps, I thought it stood up really well. It was very enjoyable. The message was solid and entertaining. There were enough humor elements that never got overly serious. And while there was dealing with horrific elements, again, it had that kind of Scooby and the Gang vibe that was light enough that I don't think most children are going to be bothered by it. It's rated PG, and I think that parental guidance, this film would be acceptable for kids, as young as 7 or 8. I don't know if you wanted to go any younger than that. They may be spooked out just because they realize that that person right there looks like a dead guy. He's moving around. So that may freak kids out. I'm not sure. But I really enjoyed ParaNorman. It was a lot of fun, and I'll be looking forward to watching it again at some point in future commentary, because I'd like to hear from the people that made this film. They did a great job. It was a lot of fun to watch. It's something I think that would be worthy of additional viewings. For example, because of my wife's love of these type of films, I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas and Monster House multiple times, and both of those films stand up really well to multiple viewings. So I'm hoping that ParaNorman does as well. So if you're looking for something that is really aimed at the fall season and at Halloween and is PG, which is kind of nice, I think that you could do a lot worse than ParaNorman.